Hello everyone, it's that time again to talk about Nintendo Switch Online. Well, the retro games thing on it anyway. See, it was, what was it, this past October I believe, they added Game Boy and Game Boy Color games to the basic online service, and then Game Boy Advance games to the expansion pack. So, because I've done videos like this, a number of videos about this, like, NES games they should add, SNES games, N64, etc. So, thought it was time to do the Game Boy line, because Game Boy, even though it was three different systems, so to speak, it was kind of like a big, long line of, even though I don't have the expansion pack, I'm still going to talk about games they should add to that, because honestly, I think the lineup for, well, let me just get that out of the way first. Game Boy Advance is my favorite handheld of all time. So many great games on there, and honestly, I feel like the launch for that was kind of weak, but well, we'll get back to more. We'll get to more on that when the time comes. So first, we'll start with the Game Boy. The first game, suggestions to be added and whatnot. The first one is Quarth, not to be confused with Quark, the dog from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. But yeah, this is basically there's two ways to describe this. It's like one way is like it's kind of like a cross between Tetris and the hell's that game called? Space Invader, or it's kind of like reverse Tetris. See, you play as a ship, which there's different ones you can play. I think there's like 5 different ones, but they all do the same thing really. They just look different. And with Tetris, you have, it's like I said, it's kind of like reverse Tetris. The blocks actually come downward, and you shoot blocks upward to try and clear the spaces out and stuff before, like how Tetris, it builds upward. In this case, it builds downward, and you have to try and like I said, it's basically reverse Tetris, but it's actually a very addictive game. The next one is Battle Unit Zeoth, which funny thing, the first time I played this game was actually on the Retro Brit Generations, which was a terrible plug-and-play system. It sounded good on paper, but it really wasn't that good. But anyway, I haven't played this in a while, but it's a side-scrolling shooter where you play as a robot. It's kind of like, what the hell do you call it? Like Darius Twins, like a side-scrolling rail shooter type of thing. But it's a great game, especially if you love those type of games, like Darius Twins and R-Type and stuff like that. It also has really good music. Yeah, I need to play that again. That's a great game. The next one is Battletoads, which is actually what this music's from, if you can hear it. Now, despite the cover art, which is the same on the box and instructions, this isn't a port of the NES game or like a portable version of the NES game. It's actually entirely different, which is funny because there's another Battletoads game for the Game Boy, which is called Battletoads in Ragnarok Canyon, and that one is basically the NES game. And it's not just the cover art or anything, even like the title card and stuff says, like, look it up, and like Let's Plays and stuff if you don't believe me. And also, quick side note, we gotta get the Battletoads NES and SNES games on there, because this being a game by Rare, they have Rare on board. Nintendo has Rare on board. We got Banjo-Kazooie and even GoldenEye, which is a friggin' licensing nightmare. But anyway, that aside, this is Battletoads. The first and third stage are your standard beat 'em up levels. In the first level, you actually get an axe, which is pretty cool. Not like, the Battletoads games, they turn their limbs into axes and stuff, but, and they do that in this, too, like, they get the boot and the ram horse and stuff, but you actually get an actual axe, like, a weapon axe. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, the second level is kind of like Battle Unit Xenoth, or R-Type, or something. It's a side-scrolling shooter, and there is a part where you have to dodge spiked pillars, which, honestly, I don't think it's as hard as the Turbo Tunnel. Then the fourth level is like a beat-em-up level, but then you go on a jet ski, which you have to use to fight this big snake dragon thing. And like any Battletoads games, this has awesome music. Especially love the music to the fourth level, and I never made it past the 5th level, which you're going through like a tunnel cave type maze thing, and you're being chased by this giant ball. Like, I've never beaten that level. Next we have Avenging Spirit. Now this actually was on the what the hell do you call it? The 3DS Virtual Console, you know, which Nintendo shut down, or they shut down the eShop anyway. And it's funny, if you remember the game Geist, which I've actually talked about on this channel before for the GameCube, you know, that's a first-person shooter. This is a platformer game, but it's kind of like the same concept. You play as a ghost, which it literally looks like a Goomba. But anyway, you know, this isn't, yeah, this wasn't Nintendo, it was Jellico, who made the Rushing Beat Sierra series, which had different names here in the States. You know, it was Peacekeepers, Brawl Brothers and stuff. I love those games. Some people were like, those were always, but anyway. Yeah, so you play as this ghost, and you possess, like, different enemies, like robots, ninjas, fire-breathing guys and stuff, and that's, like, how you navigate through the game. Like, because basically your life meter is, like, it starts to diminish unless you're possessing someone, like, and then you have to possess someone to navigate through the game. It's a great game. Next one, bit of a stretch, but it's, what is this? Yeah, Final Fantasy Legend 2. I think I said that right. I haven't played this in a while. Yeah, Final Fantasy Legend 2, which, obviously you gotta get Square Enix on board, which, again, you gotta get, like, you know, the Chrono Trigger and friggin' Mario RPG, and hell, even the Final Fantasy NES and SNES games, which I know they just released that compilation of, like, the first 6 games, but I always say it's nice to give people options. Like, you know, not everyone's going to buy the compilation, just like not everyone's going to sign up for Nintendo Switch Online. And the other thing is, personally, I think the compilation, the price is a bit steep. I know it's 6 games and all, but still, it's just like, I don't know, $100 for games that have been re-released so many times over the years, especially the 4th, which is my favorite. But the other thing is, I'm not too keen on the art style in the compilation. You know, like the way they redid the art style in the Pixel Remaster, but that could just be a nitpick. But anyway, this is actually a very different type of Final Fantasy game. It's like, you know, it's a JRPG, but you can actually, like, make your own characters, and, you know, there's, like, the human, there's elves, there's, like, a goblin or something, a robot, a dragon. It's a pretty fun little JRPG. It's pretty short, too. But, you know, like I said, yo, hey, we get some Final Fantasy games on there. Another one that's a stretch is Mega Man 5, because, again, these were all on, the Mega Man games were on the Game Boy Mega Man games were on the Virtual Console. And this is actually a reproduction card, because the real thing is rare and expensive. But yeah, because the Mega Man games on Game Boy were very different than the NES ones. I've talked about this in other videos, but I'm not going to get into all that again. But this one, you play as, to scratch that. You fight 8 robots that are named after the planets, you know, Mercury or Venus, everything except for Earth. You know, and then, well, there is Pluto, which some say it's a planet, some say it isn't, but we're not going to get into all that. And instead of the blaster, you actually shoot off your fist, but this was such an awesome Mega Man game. You know, very underrated, you know. Hard, too, but a great game. So, yeah, that should definitely be added to the list. To the, online. And the last one, the Pokemon games. Red, blue, yellow, you know. I'm surprised, though. I mean, obviously you have to get the Pokemon Game Freak on board and stuff, but it's like, and it's weird because they said, you know, they showed, like, you know, these are the, when they first announced the service, like, these are games that'll be added down in the future, and they didn't say anything about the Pokemon games, but they said, what the hell do you call it, Pokemon the card game for Game Boy Color. Yay! It's like, I mean, never played it, you know, and it's like, I never played the actual card game. I still have my collection of Pokemon cards and stuff, but, you know, it's funny, I was more one of those that just bought the cards as a collection. I never played, like, the actual game or anything, but, yeah, Pokemon games, definitely. Moving on to the Game Boy Color, I only have a couple, because most of my Game Boy Color games are like licensed games and ports of other games. To be honest with you, this was like, yeah. Anyway, the first one is Pokemon Pinball, which it's a reproduction cart. That's why it's like in a regular Game Boy gray cartridge, but because the original was black and it had the like built-in Rumble Pack. I wish I still had that copy because God, I dumped so many hours into that game and I had like a huge, massive high score. I think I had like 1 trillion points or something. But anyway, this is such a fun and addicting game. You know, like I said, I dumped so many hours into this game as a kid. It's not like your average pinball game. There's actually quite a bit more to it, but I'm not going to get into all that right now, otherwise we'll be here all day. Sorry, it's dusty, and I always say that, I need to vacuum in here, and I never get around to it, but anyway. Next is Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages, I believe, right? Yeah, because there was Ages and Seasons. I have Ages. You know, it's Game Boy Color Zelda game, which is very different. Like, there's no Ganon unless you... I think it's like something like you have to beat both games, and then you put in a series of codes, and then you can fight Ganon or something like that. But, yeah, I actually never really played too much of this, to be honest with you, but it's just another game I thought I'd add in there. So now moving on to the Game Boy Advance, which, like I said, the lineup, the launch was kind of weak, you know, considering it has so many great games. And it's fun, and like they this past week, they added the Mario Advance series. Yay! You know, it's Super Mario Advance, which is just Super Mario 2, Super Mario World, Super Mario 3, which is like, you already have those on the NES versions of the game on the basic service, so it's like, I mean, they're great games, but it's like, I mean, they're just upgraded versions of the games, and they have voices and stuff, but it's like, shouldn't you have added those, like, shouldn't you have added other games before those? Whatever. And I know they did mention F-Zero Maximum Velocity, I believe it's called. I know they mentioned the Fire Emblem games, and I'm pretty sure they mentioned Golden Sun. Damn allergies. But yeah, so I'm not going to mention those because I'm pretty sure they mentioned them already. But as for the other games that they didn't mention, first is Pokemon Ruby, and then obviously Sapphire, and Emerald, that was the one I'm thinking of. And hell, throw Fire Red and Leaf Green in there. Oh, and yeah, of course, for Game Boy Color, you got to have the Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions, because I can't believe I forgot that, because Gen 2 was my favorite. But anyway, yeah, again, got to have these on there, because the funny thing is, I don't know what it is, but I always liked the style of the Pokemon on the Game Boy Advance games. I don't know, it's just something about like the style of the graphics of those games, you know, for that system. Next is Lufia Legends of Lore. I think that's what it's called. The title is so tiny on there, but funny, this was a series that actually started on the Super Nintendo, and this was my first experience with the game. Was this? I mean, it was just kind of like some random whim buy that I got back in like 2003, I believe. It was a place my brother and I used to go to that sold like video games and stuff. I forget the name of it. You know, it was just like some random store. It wasn't like GameStop or anything like, or Funko Land or anything. It was just some, random place. Yeah, it wasn't Circuit City or Best Buy or anything like that. It was, God, I wish I remember the name of it. But that was where I got this. And this. You know, the Lufia games in general are awesome. Like, again, gotta get the SNES, you gotta get the SNES ones on the service, but yeah, this is a JRPG with a handful of different characters. You can actually, in this one anyway, you can capture monsters and turn them into allies, like to fight alongside you, and then you can also meld with them and stuff. And also, this game has some really good music. Next is kind of a more obscure title. It's Lady Sia. Funny thing, this was when I was first getting my Game Boy Advance back in the day, or when I was planning to get one, like because the Game Boy Advance launched in, I think it was like August or something. It was 2001. It was either spring or summer, whatever. It was like, I remember seeing it in stores, and I made like a list, because I had it on my Christmas list, and I was like, I had a list of the games. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get that at some point. I'm gonna get that at some point. This was one of the games, and I never actually did get it until like 5-6 years ago, 7, whatever. And it's actually a pretty good game. I haven't played it in a while, but it's from what I played, it's a pretty good game. It's kind of like Xena, or the character you play as is kind of like Xena. It's an action platformer type of game. Next, another obscure title. I used to rent this all the time. Fortress. It's kind of like Battle Tetris or something like that, or Tetris. Yeah, it's like it's like Tetris. You build up, stack up all these shapes to build like you meld them together to build like a fortress, and then you also add like cannons and other things to like shoot your opponent's one, and then it's like the more your fortress builds, the more points you get. And I think it's like once you get a certain number of points, you win and your opponent's fortress starts blowing up. It's a lot better than I'm making it sound out to be. It's warm in here and my allergies are going nuts, but it's a very fun game. Like I said, I used to rent this all the time until I eventually bought it. And it also has some really good music. Next is Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. God, I remember my brother and I buying this when it came out from Best Buy. I actually like this better than the PlayStation game. I don't know, I found like it was a little bit simpler. And also, you had different species, like you had Moogles, which look different than they do in the other games. Bangas, which are like these lizard-like people. There was I think they were called like Viera or something like that. They were like these rabbit women. And, yeah, where was I going with this? But anyway. Yeah, this one had a good story to it, too. Basically, you're sucked into the world of Final Fantasy, and then it's like you're trying to fight your way back to the real world and stuff, but, yeah. And last but not least, Bomberman Tournament. Once again, you gotta get the other Bomberman games on there, especially the Super Nintendo ones. But this, again, I used to rent this all the time until I finally bought it. You have the battle mode, but then you also have an adventure mode, which is a lot like Legend of Zelda, or maybe more like Crusaders of Senti, which had a different name in Japan, because you use, well, obviously your attack is the bombs, which you get different types of ones. Like my favorite was the RC bomb, which you could like move it around and stuff, like a remote control, which was kind of cool. But you also get these creatures called Carabons, which are basically, it was kind of like a nod to Pokemon. There actually is like battles you can have with them, which are very simple. It's kind of like rock paper scissors type of thing. But you use them for like different things. Like for example, like there's one that like creates a bridge so you can get across gaps. Another one allows you to throw bombs and things like that. Some of them are actually pretty cool. Like there was a two-headed dragon and an elephant. And like a shark, this was before the third generation of Pokemon, but and again, this game has some amazing music. I always loved the music, and especially when you fight the bombers, the 5 deadly bomber bosses. But those are just some of the games that I think should be added to Nintendo Switch Online and Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. What are some of the games you guys think should be added? Let me know in the comments section below. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and as always, thanks for watching.